And Jack, what about injuries and things like that? Is there a lesser injury sports that you could recommend for kids?
Chess. Actually, I shouldn't be so sarcastic. Unfortunately, there's an epidemic ongoing with young people and injuries in sports. About 2.5 million a year are injured, and these are the young kids, 14 and under. Actually, the Sports Medicine Society is just with Jimmy Andrews, who's world-renowned. He's the guy that everyone goes sees in Birmingham when they get injured, whether he does a surgery or not. He is the ultimate guru, and he's heading up this because we're seeing younger and younger kids now with more severe injuries. Major ligamentous injuries to the elbow, ligamentous injuries to the knee, in an age group where they ought to be playing kickball and running around and having a good time. They're on the operating table getting reconstructed for their elbow or their shoulder or their knee or whatever. So a lot of this has to do with overuse. Not even so much parental pressure. A lot of the kids are putting the pressure on themselves right now. Unfortunately, they see Albert Pujols making $25 million a year, and they think they're going to be the next Albert Pujols. Well, the likelihood of that, from a statistical standpoint, is looking at one of the professor's neutrinos down there, it's highly unlikely, and the kids and both the kids and the parents put undue pressure on themselves. Plus, they're not kids anymore. They play year-round sports, AAU, 80 games in a summer. That's ridiculous. The soccer leagues, 8 games in a weekend. That's ridiculous. That's malpractice as far as I'm concerned. The pros don't play 8 games in a weekend, yet they have these kids playing 8 games in a weekend. It's just absolutely absurd, the stuff you hear in the office. So a little bit of common sense goes a long way. I got to give Little League credit. They now have what's called a pitch count, where a certain pitcher is only allowed to throw 60 pitches in a week. Then he has to go play another position. And he can't pitch, I think it's every 5 or 6 days. Because what was happening, and I must admit I pitched in a Little League, you'd pitch 2-3 nights a week and your arm was about to fall off. Well, we were seeing more and more of that. So at least Little League stepped in and said, listen, this is what we got to do. And people are more aware. But parental pressure and self-pressure, it's difficult to override. Why are you doing this to your kids? Now, if you're going to swim long distances, you have to swim long distances to train. But you never see the world-class sprinters, Usain Bolt, Carl Lewis, Tyson Gay, any of those guys were world-class sprinters trying to run a marathon, and that's basically what the swimming coaches do. And this goes on nationwide. Maybe I'm ignorant, but it makes no sense physiologically, and then they wonder why the kids get hurt. Swimming 10,000 meters a day, that's a hell of a burden, and that's every day. Not everyone's Michael Phelps, and even he cuts back on his training and goes and eats at Wendy's and et cetera, and gains 15 pounds and then gets back into training. So, yeah, I think the swimmers overdo it, and I don't think there's any basis to the way they train personally.
I think he goes to Subway and gains 15 pounds because of that bong hit. Gets a little munchy, and then he's got to go to the Subways and do.
Hell, you're not going to have, when they make marijuana legal, and that's coming, you're not going to have any outlet to bitch. You see.
Maybe those curling people have something.
Hey, that's a finesse sport. That's great hand-eye. And you don't have to be a great athlete to do that. But again, you look at the golfers nowadays, and we were talking in the office today, one of my 80-year-old patients who just came back from a golf trip with his son out to the East Coast. And I was lucky enough to go to Augusta National with Mr. Stevens 3 times. And to watch these guys, the golfers, which is the ultimate hand-eye. They're as gifted as watching a good surgeon operate, and which is the ultimate hand-eye as far as I'm concerned. But for the most part, these guys are really good athletes nowadays. But in the olden days, they weren't. But they were still really skilled. You watch tapes of the old golfers in the 50s and the 60s when I grew up, and their body builds are nothing like the kids nowadays. My God, Tiger Woods could play tight end for most of the NFL teams. The couple of the kids coming out of Australia, Badley, and there's another one I'm blocking on his name. These kids are just ripped. I mean, they are great athletes. But to combine that, they go out and hit 1,000 balls a day. So to get in the groove and to get in the zone. So anyway, it's really interesting to see world-class athletes like that.